Hello, my name is Cassandra Blanco. I am Roman Catholic, and I welcome you to my podcast. Today's guests are my friends Derrell and Liz Murphy. Derrell was born in Missouri, and Liz was born in Florida, both in the United States, and they were both raised in Florida. They met while studying at Florida State University. They have been happily married since 2010 and now have 4 beautiful children. Derrell works as an insurance agent in the banking industry, and Liz homeschools their children while working on her side business called Active Purpose. So welcome to both of you.
Thank
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us
Yeah,
on.
absolutely. So we are going to jump in. So I want to start. So the podcast is mostly going to be about your marriage and about your family, but I want to jump in just about first, where were you born? So each of you could take turns. So where were you born? Where were you raised? Just the beginning of your life. So why don't we start with that?
I was born in Florida and raised in Florida. I've lived here my whole life. And I grew up in Melbourne and then moved to Tallahassee to go to Florida State. And that's where I met Derrell.
And I was born in Missouri, St. Louis to be exact. But shortly after that, we moved to Florida. I was raised here in Florida, been here most of my life. And like Liz said, we met at FSU at the Catholic Student Union, and yeah, we hit it off, and great things happened from there.
Okay, so let's go in a little bit deeper than that. So just you were born, so we're going to focus mostly on faith here. So if we could talk about that part. You were born, so let's start with you, Liz. You were born in Melbourne, and did you grow up Catholic? Did you go to your home parish? Were you raised? Was your family practicing? And then when you got to Florida State University, did you get involved in the Catholic Student Union automatically? How did all of that transform over time? So if you just want to go deeper into that.
Well, I was raised Catholic, baptized as a baby, went to Catholic school my whole life up until college. Then I went to a local community college because it was right around the corner from my house,
Mm-hmm.
and had a full ride scholarship there and everything. So it made sense financially to do that. And then I transferred to Florida State after that. I would say my faith going from a Catholic high school to going to a secular college, it kind of struggled, when I went there. And then transferring to Florida State, when I moved up there, my mother brought me to St. Thomas More,
Mm-hmm.
and we just happened to meet somebody there who was involved in CSU, the Catholic Student Union.
Mm-hmm.
And so he encouraged me. He's like, "Hey, on Wednesday, make sure you come to our CSU night and everything like that, and to our mass on Sunday, and we get together afterwards and everything like that." So I was like, "Sure, I'll try it."
Mm-hmm.
And well, the funny story was the first time I tried to go there, I decided to walk from my apartment to St. Thomas More, but I didn't know the area very well. And so I started walking and I got very lost on FSU campus and went around in circles a few times apparently. And then finally got there right as mass was ending. So, but what was great was everybody was very welcoming. I introduced myself to one person there, and they just introduced me to everybody else. And hey, she's new, all that. So, hit it off with a lot of people, and it just went from there. And I got involved and loved it, and it really helped my faith grow
Mm-hmm.
there. So it was good. It was a very important part of faith formation for me as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And then in terms of, was there like a moment, Liz, for you? Like, was it retreats or was it just something kind of gradual that happened in your faith journey that you felt like you went from maybe less interest to more interest over time?
I would say the retreats definitely played a huge part in that, but it was overall a gradual thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think I didn't realize how far I had kind of fallen away from the faith, going to the community college, and started, because when you get to college, you're introduced to all sorts of different things that I had never really known before.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, hey buddy.
Hi.
So going from that and trying to get, kind of back to what I was, but also learning how to do faith as an adult, because it's different than when you're a kid and your family's encouraging you to do it. You don't really have a choice in the matter, right? You got to go to church every Sunday, you got to go to your Catholic school, stuff like that. But when it's now an option, it's completely different. And so it's not that I stopped going to mass or completely gave it up, but I wasn't diving deeper. And so CSU, the retreats definitely helped you to dive deeper. And retreats are huge. Even to this day, like we try to go on those because they're just such a huge faith builder. They really are. So I would say the retreats were huge, but it was definitely also a gradual thing, and seeing other students, people my age going through the same process, that helped as well. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just, we were at Catholic Student Union together in Florida State, and the Florida State at that time, the retreats were Eucharistic-Centered Retreats with the Brotherhood of Hope. So they were incredibly powerful. I knew many people during those retreats that really came to a deeper faith because of those retreats. So they were really powerful for me, and I know many of my friends and people I knew as well. So Derrell, do you want to share more just about your journey from, specifically about faith, childhood, all the way up through Catholic Student Union?
For sure. So, faith wasn't really part of my household growing up. My father was agnostic. My mom wasn't really into church in any aspect of it all. But if anything, she was Baptist. So I didn't grow up really with any foundation that was set. So I really didn't really come into that until we moved to Florida. I got involved in a church down in Tampa called St. Francis of Assisi, and they had CCD, so it's kind of old school stuff. So I kind of got involved in the Catholic Church that way. Got baptized when I was 16. Just kind of went through the, hey, my parents wanted me to do this, so I did it. So I wouldn't say I was like fully just aware of everything that I had to do or it was involved in. After high school, I went to the Marine Corps, and I wouldn't say I fell away. I wouldn't say I was ever really too in depth in my faith. I went to mass here and there in the 4 years at Camp Lejeune. I might have went to mass 3 or 4 times. And so it wasn't really until I got out, I got over to FSU. I was just working, and one day I decided just not to go to work. And God said, "Oh, you're not going to go to work? Well, let me show you something." I actually walked, from Ocala. If you remember Ocala Street, I walked from there to St. Thomas More. Went to mass. First person I met, Big Gary. Big Gary, and he had a fire, and I was like, okay, let me see what this is all about. He's like, yeah, after mass, come check out. We go to have dinner and everything like that, and I met Andy after that, and just everything kind of rolled from there, and I just kind of got really involved in the Catholic Student Union, and went on to a mission trip to Holy Trinity, Alabama. That was fantastic. That's really where everything changed for me. We're doing mass, and I was kind of after mass, kind of just walking the grounds, kind of praying, and I just realized like this is what I want to do, and that's where everything really changed. And I decided, like, for myself to really dive into my faith and go hard, I guess you can say. And from then I've just everything just kind of rolled into ways that I was happy with. I met a lot of great friends. I met you. I met Liz, which knows my wife now, and everything was. I was happy. It was joy. It was not so much happiness. It was more joy, and I hadn't known anything like that before. So that was really what drove me to go deeper and maintain that faith. So.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I don't remember. I was started at Florida State 2003. So when did you guys both come?
So you would have met me I would have seen you probably. I was there once in 2003 just for like mass and Googa Mooga.
Okay. Yes, Googa Mooga.
And then I didn't come back again until 2005.
Okay. All right.
So.
And what about you?
I was 2005 was when I started, when I had transferred there to
Okay.
FSU, so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I remember we were there at the same time. It was hard to keep up with who was there, before.
Right.
After,
Right.
so, yeah. Okay. So do you guys want to go into, so you guys share about your faith. You're both at Catholic Student Union. You're both getting excited about your faith, and then you guys meet. So whoever wants to share the story about how you met and then how your relationship evolved.
I mean, I'll let her tell you how much just like I was just so awesome that she couldn't help but to fall in love with me.
We hadn't besides hanging out amongst lots of people, lots of friends, we hadn't ever hung out together. And then I think it was probably around Valentine's Day.
We'll start with winter retreat.
Retreat
team.
Yeah, maybe the retreat team.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the this is the story of how he says he decided he really liked me. You remember B-Hud?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes.
So he was the retreat team, my retreat team partner,
Mm-hmm.
and his was Araceli.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to do this skit, the four of us together.
Mm-hmm.
And so the skit was what to do and what not to do when asking students to come to retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And so we made up the skit. And it was, of course, Derrell's idea. He's like, okay, Liz, you're gonna beat up B-Hud, pretend, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And and this is gonna be an example of what not to do. And so
I'm good at the examples of what not to do. All right.
So remember at that time I had hair way down
Mm-hmm.
towards my legs. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
way long hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have it up in a ponytail or bun or anything like that. I had it down. I remember that. And so, I dropped some bows on him and pretended to throw him to the ground, drop some bows on him, everything. And I guess that was the moment Derrell realized this girl's pretty cool. And so that's what he tells people. And so
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
yeah, I beat up a guy and then he fell in love with me. I don't know.
She's a tough girl. That's sweet.
No, I've never beaten anybody up in my life. So
Yeah.
And then so I think it was he planned and he asked me out on April Fool's Day so that if I said no, he could just say, April Fool's, But it worked out. I said yes. So
Aw, that's awesome.
I had to give her a pros and cons list.
But yeah, I mean, dating went well. We dated for over 4 years before we tied the knot.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, and I think that was I think it seems like a long time for people, and it is, but I think that allowed us to really get to know each other before making that kind of commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to see each other through different trials and how we each react to it, and solve a lot of anything that you might need to solve before you get married. It's a good idea too, or whatever, because there's always going to be something. But but I think that really helped prepare us and build our friendship really solidly before we got married. And that was really important. So,
For sure.
Absolutely. Anything you want to add, Derrell, to that?
Yeah. I've heard people talk about the timeline in which people as they date and the length it should be before they get married. And I've heard people say that 4 years is too long. I think it's something for you to discern. I don't have a date. I don't have a amount of time that people should wait or anything like that there. I know for us, 4 years was what it was. It just happened to work that way. There was growing up to do. We were, I'd come from the military. She was just leaving from her parents, into the college there. And there were things we had to accomplish and things we had to learn and growth that was needed, especially in your faith. You're about to step into a family life. And if you don't have the proper foundations and haven't take that time to grow out of the pride and the selfishness and all those things that can hinder a relationship, then you're not setting yourself up for success. So we really had to focus our relationship on Christ. And that allowed us to, as we stepped into the sacrament of marriage, to really just fulfill what we're called to.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't take the time that we took for that growth, then I don't know that things are any better for us at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
And I think that
absolutely.
that has,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that preparation for marriage and like us being solidly together has helped us. We couldn't have seen the future, of course, but like now looking back on the past 14 years of marriage, like it definitely prepared us for what was to come,
Mm-hmm.
some of the challenges and trials we would have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
And so you really have to build that solid foundation before you get married, because you don't know, you know, what that holds, and it's
Mm-hmm.
better to know the person you're marrying and you know
Yeah.
have your faith in place and you know what you're getting into before you do it, and
Mm-hmm.
that way you're more prepared and it can last longer and you can get through the trials because there's gonna be. That's just life. So
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That healthy, strong foundation that then it can grow up and then withstand when if things get difficult or when things get difficult in marriage
Right.
or external factors that make a stress on a marriage.
right.
So, absolutely. All right. So then you guys got married in 2010. Did I get that right? Okay. So you got married in 2010. And then can you go through now just what your marriage has been like and what has it been like in terms of ups and downs and just anything really you just want to share?
So when we first got married, even through our first child,
Mm-hmm.
to me everything just seemed like it was pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. That was one part. My brother passed away during our first 2 years of marriage. That was a tough part there. But as far as the marriage itself, like I felt like things were easy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel like there were many challenges. There was obviously the day-to-day things that you have to do, and that's just life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then things really for us didn't really get too crazy until we moved from Tallahassee to Jacksonville,
Mm-hmm.
and we said, okay, now we're going to get to that part where we're starting that life permanently into one area. And I feel like that's where we kind of felt like where the attacks kind of started. Like
Mm-hmm.
you just like I said, I lost my brother. Um, financially things kind of took a hit
Mm-hmm.
a little bit as we're trying to get established here in a new city, get our life going, got to get, moved in, and everything was just like got really difficult really
Mm-hmm.
fast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like I was saying earlier, like if you haven't built that foundation, um, that's going to withstand just everything that comes at you,
Mm-hmm.
then it makes it a lot tougher when things are hard.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, things were hard. But the one thing that we knew we lived across the street from the church. So we could literally wake up, get dressed, walk across the street, go to
Mm-hmm.
mass. I was working with the Knights of Columbus, so I was really involved in the church. So even though things seemed difficult and things seemed hard, I knew that I knew our faith was there. I
Mm-hmm.
knew we were there and that we would make it through everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
So, we just kind of you kind of pray and you read the Bible and you just kind of forge ahead and everything will work out.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that. And Liz has always just kind of been like my voice of reason. So when things are tough, like I just talk to her. She's my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So when I feel however I'm feeling, I turn to her and say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through." And like I let her words encourage me, and that's made a lot of the difference there. And her words have always been centered in Christ, so it's always been good for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my little tidbit on how life just comes. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. So that was a little bit about marriage. So you guys also have four beautiful children. So do you want to share about that as well? Maybe ups and downs of parenting and even advice that you have for people that are having children or that have children that are going through a hard time?
Well, I think that everybody is a perfect parent until they become one. And so,
True story.
and so there's definitely been, mistakes made, of course, things like that. But the but our kids are fantastic, and we absolutely adore them. Like, sure, there's challenges, don't get me wrong. They test us every single day, in a lot of different ways, including at mass this morning. So we but we have thoroughly enjoyed being parents. That has been the number one job anybody could ever have, and it's
Very important.
huge responsibility, 24/7 duties, but it's like absolutely incredible. And nobody can really prepare you for not only the challenges but the joys of it as well. Nobody can fully express that, and it's just not possible to. But but that's also something you really have to be rooted in your faith in order to be able to do. Otherwise, there's too many challenges and times when things are just so overwhelming, especially with, many children. If you don't have your faith solid, then you're going to stray, and it's too easy.
You can't give what you don't have.
Yeah.
So you have to have a strong faith and a strong foundation to be able to set your kids up for that same a stronger foundation. Really, you want them to be better than you are. So like you said, like it's got its own challenges, but you gotta set yourself aside, because it's no longer just you and the things that you want. It's like there's this miniature human here, that I've got to give everything to. I didn't mean to step away. I'm sorry, babe.
No, you're fine.
So,
but yeah, and I think well, you can talk about it. But the
give me this thing. So the biggest challenge we had was last year we lost our daughter. She would have been number 5. She did not make it to birth. It was month like
5,
5 or 6. So the hardest part was that Liz still had to go through all the labor and everything that you do. And at the end of it, we didn't have a child to take home. So.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's super painful.
That was one of the toughest things that we've been through as a couple. And honestly, like, God really showed his hand through that time. We were at St. Vincent's, and Father
Which
Matt
is just so that people know. So St. Vincent's is the hospital that you guys were at. Okay.
So we're there at St. Vincent's, and Father Matt King, he gave me his number, cell phone. So I called him, and he just kind of came to just kind of be there with us. And he was there for a little bit, and did some prayers with us, and just was there, just was present. Right after he left, labor started, and
that's when she was born, immediately after anointing of the sick. But I think with through that and all the trials surrounding that, because last year was kind of unbelievable in a lot of other ways too, and it was like one thing after another. And so we but the kind of that miracle surrounding that, where she was born right after anointing the sick, when nothing the doctors could do, there was nothing the doctors were doing to get her out. I mean, I'd been there for 3 days and nothing was happening. And so that was quite a miracle. And I'm pretty sure somebody else who was there converted while they're witnessing all of this. And so the miracles surrounding that really like deepened our faith. And then I think because we hadn't been through not even a miscarriage
Mm-hmm.
or an early one or anything before that,
Mm-hmm.
um, um, we hadn't, experienced anything like this. And so it was very powerful and kind of drove the point home of like not taking things for granted.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Nothing at all.
Right. Especially, I'm guessing also just really treasuring your beautiful children that you
Yeah.
do
Right. Yeah.
have. Mm-hmm.
And it was a big struggle for them too, like and they went to the grandparents when all this kind of started.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their expectation was they would come back and have a little sister, a baby sister or something like that. So for them to come back, yes, buddy, and to not have, that sibling, and then like as parents, you have to tell them,
Mm-hmm.
they're smart enough to figure out like, hey, there should be another one of us here,
Mm-hmm.
and so you have to basically get through there and tell them and break it down for them,
Mm-hmm.
that this is what happens and this just happens sometimes in life.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm so sorry you went through that. Yeah. So, to go through just a little bit more about parenting in terms of Liz, or you guys decided as a family also to homeschool your children. So, do you want to just share just more about that? Because not every family chooses to homeschool. So, do you just want to share more about that, what that's been like, your experience, ups and downs, whatever you want to share, whatever you're comfortable with.
We that calling kind of started when we were still in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Caden was still so young and I hadn't really thought too much about what we were gonna do yet or
Mm-hmm.
or anything. We're kind of in the struggles of like first child, toddler stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think hanging out with some friends who all homeschooled one day. They had 7 children at the time. And they had some other friends over who had 6 children, and
Mm-hmm.
all of them were homeschooled as well. And I
Mm-hmm.
could just see how they were even with me, like
Mm-hmm.
as an adult. They were very very social, very friendly. They weren't like afraid to talk to me. They, and not that that means anything directly, but I think that just kind of opened my eyes to how well they were trained by their parents to, not be afraid of any adult or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I mean, sure, stranger danger to a certain extent,
Mm-hmm.
but like, certain things. And I think because even when I was raised, it was like you don't speak unless you're spoken to. You don't talk to anybody else who's not your age or in your class, like
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of seemed like that growing
Mm-hmm.
up. And I saw how they did things. Caden was babysat by them a few times while I had to go do some stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
they were just awesome kids, and I was just like blown away by how good they were, all of
Mm-hmm.
them. And so I think I had never really considered it before, but at that point I was like, I need to look at this and just at least think of this as an option and all that. And the more I looked into it, the more I talked to them about it, I was just like, I really want to do this. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is something I really want to do. And so we started when Caden was preschool age after we moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And we started with Seton Homeschool Academy. I think it was called Home Study Academy. And that was great. We started with pre-K for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then did it into kindergarten, but that didn't work out for him for kindergarten. And so I started looking into some other options, and the Catholic Schoolhouse program started in Jacksonville. And so we joined that at its inception, and we've been part of it ever since. And it's a classical curriculum, and we've thoroughly enjoyed that, and the community that it provides with the co-op, and just being very involved in that. And I love meeting all the people that come through there, and like we get new families every year. So it's just such a great opportunity to meet other Catholic families around Jacksonville too. And it's provided lots of friends for the kids and lots of great field trip opportunities. And we've had a lot of fun. And no regrets looking back. It's been great. So,
and one of the most important things that in looking at this was that we wanted to make sure we wanted a school program where everything was focused like on Christ. You start looking at public schools, and I went to public school, so I'm not putting public schools down, but I didn't learn anything about like my faith with public school. So with this, like she said, the Catholic Schoolhouse, they really have a foundation. Prayer is how they start the day. All right, everybody come in, we'll do prayer, and then we'll split everybody up to their classes. And everything's just really just focused in Christ. And from there, like she said, the kids are they're so well behaved, they're so well mannered. They're still kids, so they're still a really high energy level, that still has to be managed. But it's just a loving, family-based school. And that was a big deal for us.
And certain things that might be like a really big deal in a regular school, because obviously a teacher needs to have control of their classroom, and it makes sense. But in a smaller setting where the parents are the class leaders and whatnot, there's certain things that we let go, that it doesn't really matter, and we have kids who are autistic or special needs and things like that, and so there's definitely going to be things you got to let go. But like even still, like if another kid wants to go sit over on the floor and learn that way, that's okay. Like they don't have to sit in their chair all the time. And there's some kids that are more wiggly than others, and things like that. So
more high energy.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And I teach the upper level fine arts program. And that's been really very fun for me. I really enjoyed that, and getting to know some of the older kids in our group as well, and seeing them go through the program too. A lot of them have been through it for a long time, so seeing them grow up and now speaking more like adults.
About to graduate. Some of them are about to graduate. Like,
wow.
You were 12 when I met you. Now you're about to graduate from it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, my first like 6th grade group just graduated, and they were like my first students. I'm like,
oh,
for sure.
But they, I don't know. It's been fun to like see these young adults and them like cracking jokes, and appropriate ones, of course. And they
let's clarify. This is a Catholic podcast.
But just like their silliness and like, but also like willingness to learn, and just even if it's something that they know they're not maybe all that great at or something, they're trying it anyway. They'll be like, Mrs. Murphy, I'm not really good at this. I'm like, just try it, and then they try it and they're like, that was okay. It was pretty good, But like, I don't know. It's been fun to get to know all these kids in a different way, and have our kids go through it as well. So
yeah, that's awesome. So Liz, you've spent most of your life in motherhood as a stay-at-home mom, also working on the side, doing your side business as well. But Derrell, you've mostly worked full-time. So I just want just a perspective, if you're comfortable with it, sharing about living your faith out in the workplace, since you've worked mostly in corporate America. Is that right?
Mostly, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, so like where I'm currently at, just kind of speaking more recently, well, I'll back it up. So you really have to have your I don't know how to really word it. Like I keep going back to the foundation, because I think that's just so important to have that, and that is the way you make it through in a corporate world, because without that, it's just not part of your work life. So like I have my rosary with me every day when I go to work. People ask what it is or what am I doing, and I explain to them, and then you'll meet people. Oh, well, I'm Catholic too, and you create those bonds. Most recently, like I said, I started a prayer group at my current job, and not all of us are Catholic, but we all get in there and pray because the fact of the matter is we all have situations that we're dealing with. We all are appreciative of the blessings that God has given us.
Mm-hmm.
And the prayer is just our time just to come together, wherever two or more gather in his name, he is there. So just to gather together. Last Friday, it was me and one other person.
Mm-hmm.
Normally we have like 5 to 8 people. It was me and one other person. And we said, hey, he's still here.
Mm-hmm.
So we brought that prayer into that kind of corporate environment. Um, I'm more of a ask forgiveness sometimes than permission, especially when it comes to my faith. I'm going hard, and if you don't like it, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay because I'm sure there's things I don't like, but we'll just deal with whatever. So I bring it to that. I bring it to the office. A lot of people participated. No one's had any issues yet. But I know that when you do something that strengthens your faith, there's always an attack
Mm-hmm.
that comes at some point. So I fully expect that, and I welcome it because that means I'm doing something. That means we are doing something that's great and
Mm-hmm.
bringing us closer to God, and that's not what's wanted. So I fully expect that to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just you know that's just prayer,
Mm-hmm.
prayer life. So
That's great. Yeah. Beautiful. It's like you could still maintain your Catholic faith even if you don't work in a Catholic job or in ministry.
right,
Like you can continue to maintain your faith even if you're working in corporate America.
right.
So that's very important. All right. So I just have two more questions. The first is more about you've talked a lot about faith in marriage, but do you just want to share any rituals or traditions that you guys do as a family? So that's my first question. Or as a couple, like what prayer routines or anything that you do as a couple and as a family. And then the second question is about how you have passed on your faith to your children. What have you done to try to instill Catholic faith and Catholic beliefs and teachings onto your children?
Sure.
Well, something that we do that was started because of Catholic Schoolhouse was the Angelus.
Mm-hmm.
So the kids don't participate in the 6 a.m. one, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but that's we do the 6 a.m., the 12 p.m., and the 6 p.m. Angelus.
Mm-hmm. So
And
just if we could stop right there, Liz, do you want to explain what the Angelus actually is for those that don't know?
so the Angelus is it's part of scripture about Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and then the three Hail Marys with the scripture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a prayer. I know it's about discipline
Mm-hmm.
a lot. So like the point of it, well, point of any prayer is prayer, but
Yeah.
the
Connection with God.
the the point of the 6 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. is discipline. So like I
Right.
have an alarm on my phone, like, hey, get up, do your prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Noon, do your prayer. 6 p.m., do your prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Does it happen like that every single time? No, but I'm trying,
Mm-hmm.
So we try.
Right. It creates like a routine in your family that you're
It does.
following and turning
Yeah.
it to God, turning life to God and our hearts back to God.
Right. And it allows you throughout the day to remember, hey, prayer,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the day. And I would like to add eventually, a 9 a.m. and a 3 p.m. prayer so that I'm praying on the regular. If I could do it every hour, that would be great.
Go,
Sometimes with
Liz.
kids, though, I don't
Hey, your kids are going to be like, wasn't that enough prayer, mom?
know. But the but yeah, it's discipline of it.
Mm-hmm.
We also like to pray the rosary. I'm not going to say it happens every night, but we try to do it as often as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's nights where everybody's completely exhausted and we forget,
Mm-hmm.
but that's family life for
Mm-hmm.
you. But the intention is there and we're trying, so
Mm-hmm.
And
so we'll
something
get
we
better at that.
something we just kind of started. I learned this from someone here recently. And it's called Good Bad God.
Mm-hmm.
So like we get so busy in our day, we don't take time to have that conversation as a family. So at dinner, I'll say, "Hey, it's time for Good Bad God. Tell
Mm-hmm.
me something good that happened in your day. Tell me something that maybe wasn't as good, call it the bad, and
Mm-hmm.
then tell me something in your day where you saw God's presence
Mm-hmm.
or God working in your life." Um, and I think that sometimes the kids are like, I don't really know what to say, but it creates an engine. The wheels start turning. and they start thinking about their day and like, okay, where did I see this? Where did and so it causes them to actually be conscious of where God is working in their life, as opposed to just like, oh, let me think back at, and see what happened. It's like, okay, I see this going on right now, so this is definitely God working. So it just kind of opens that up for them.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then also we had, like, for me, I had to really stop with like secular music. And so, my kids really we do listen to like a lot of just different, I guess, genres of Christian music. And that's the biggest thing that I think has helped us a lot, is just getting rid of the nonsense, so.
Yeah, different ways for you to fill a life of God within your family life. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you guys want to share about parenting, about marriage, ups and downs, or advice to young couples, or advice to people who are really struggling in their marriage as well? Just anything you want to share from your wisdom of being parents and your wisdom of being married.
I think that honestly, doing we really started the Angelus probably a year ago, like really making sure we did it. And that one prayer and the regular reminder of prayer, and even if it's not the Angelus, like just something where it's like you pray at these times and have that discipline and things like that when there's those struggles going on. And I think that's why I started it, because last year was so chaotic, and we had so many things happen, and so like there was a lot of struggles going on in the family, and it just felt like everything was just hard. And so during that time I just needed something. I was like, I just need the one thing that I can hold on to that's disciplined, that's like easy to do, that's I don't have to think about it. My phone is going to give me an alarm. Like I can just, at those times I'm going to do it, and we're just going to go from there. But that one thing like really keeps you grounded. And like, and during those hard times and during those struggles and during those times when maybe the marriage isn't good, or things are going hard with the kids, or you're moving, or you lose your job, or um and lose a child, all of which happened in the past year for us. So we
so hard.
Yeah, the keeping yourself grounded in your faith and in your prayer and doing the Angelus really helped us to keep that discipline and keep that reminder and all of that, and just like God's got this. Like I need to remember to give this to God several times a day.
Right.
And like and then before you know it, things kind of chill out a bit, and the kids are not as upset or chaotic or or whatever, or or unexplainable things can happen too. And we definitely had, through the struggles of the past year, also a lot of miracles come out of it, and a lot of unexplained things, or maybe even things we don't know yet.
Right.
And so but we know that they're there, and we know that that it was God. We know that all the good things that came out of the past year was God too. And so when we have to be tested in order to have a triumph, we have to go through that hard time in order for God to do with us what he wants us to do. He's got to sharpen us, make us better, and you got to go through trial in order to do that. So yeah, and that helps you realize that.
Yeah.
And keep that mindset of it. Otherwise you're going to lose that and just have the victim mindset of like, I'm just getting bombarded with everything. And yeah, you are for sure. But like, there's a purpose behind it. It's not just, there's a purpose. So,
and for the couples that like, it's always been big on my heart to help couples that may be struggling in their marriage. And I think that the answer is always focus. What is it that you're focused on in your marriage? Are you focused on money? Are you focused on other people's perception of you, or are you focused on Christ? So when your focus is on things of the world, that's how your problems are gonna be. They're gonna be of the world. When you focus on Christ and you have that center, that everything is just aimed in the right direction, everything just kind of falls in line. It may not fall into your line, but it's going to fall in line. God has a plan for us. He has things that he wants for us. And when you're focused on what his will is for you and for your family, only good things can come from that. It may not be, again, what you want, but only good things can come from that. When you're focused on the world is chaos right now. You know, you can turn a TV on, which we do very little of because it's crazy. And I have to keep my kids focused because my job as a parent is to make sure that I'm giving them the best of everything I can give them as far as their faith. They need to see that we as their parents are living what we're telling them. But cycling back to couples that are struggling, you got to get your focus on Christ and maintain it. You know, nothing else really matters. You know, you focus on Christ together as a couple, and like I said, everything else will fall in line.
And there was also like, I think a lot of times it's very easy to get into the mindset of like what the other person did wrong instead of like what you did wrong or what you haven't done for them lately, you know, like, and so oftentimes if I catch myself doing that and being like, well, I'm not perfect either, and I need to figure out what I've been doing wrong. I need to apologize for it. And I also need to do better at serving him as my partner. And because in a marriage, you're serving each other, you're serving your children.
Right.
And so you can't have this mentality of like, I'm the king or queen and I deserve to be served all the time. No, you're your servant to them.
Right. You remember Jesus
you
washed
need
his
to,
disciples' feet.
yeah. And so when I switch it back to that, then things go a lot better. And like, be like, even though I feel wronged in this moment, I'm going to do something nice for him, even though it's the last thing I want to do right now. But when you do that, then it's like things go a lot better. And oftentimes like the other person realizes like, yeah, I've not been very nice lately. I'm sorry, you know, or whatever the case may be. So I think that one is huge. Just realizing that in a marriage, you are servants to each other and to your children. And just like Christ, you know, serves us, and we need to serve him in return by, you know, glorifying him and serving each other as well. So,
Derrell, anything else you want to add?
This kind of, you know, I didn't mean to try to speak over earlier, but just as Christ served us, like, you know, you have to remember, like, he washed the disciples' feet. You know, he did come to serve, and that's just how we have to live. Just within our communities, our family, our church, like we have to be there to serve. And I think that that is a very big deal as far as helping with build that foundation. So.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Liz and Derrell, for being my fourth podcast. I'm very happy that you guys joined me. And to my audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment and I will do my best to respond. Have a great day wherever you are in the world, and God bless you. Bye-bye.